We just concluded a great fight night right here today, between Cannonier and Rodrigues. So this one was a great fight night, and every fight in the main card deserved to be talked about on this one. So this one's just going to be audio, but let's get right into it. The first fight that we're going to start off with is going to be Rodolfo Vieira and Jacob Petroski. Man, Petroski just dropped Rodolfo with, a right hook right away. I mean, this was very quick and early in the fight. This is definitely where both fighters are trying to feel each other out, though. But you can tell that they both know that they can knock each other out, so they're being very careful, and there's a lot of calculating going on in their head. Petroski is having a great defense against those takedowns. He's like, man, you're not getting me down on the ground because that's not going to be a good place for me. For the most part, though, he's just going straight right down the middle, throwing shots right down the middle. Some are landing, but for the most part, he's getting countered pretty well at the same time. For Vieira, he wanted to implement the wrestling, but it was not working for him quite well in this fight at all. He is putting himself in a little bit of danger every time he comes in and goes for the takedown. He needs to work really hard to tie up Petroski, try to get him down a little bit, and he's taking shots as he's coming in. So I'm not sure if this was part of their game plan, but if it was, Petroski was definitely ready for it. At this point, you might be able to take him down a little bit easier if he maybe started throwing some combinations. 1, 2, 3, get him guessing, and then try to take him down. But none of his attempts really worked in this entire fight. To be completely honest, though, throughout this fight, I'm glad I'm not a judge because I'm not exactly sure how they're scoring any of this fight. No one's really dominating the fight. The significant strikes are going to look very similar. Towards the end, though, they're going after each other with 1 and 2 punch combinations. Like just 1-2 punch combinations. Like I said, everything is calculated in this one. They kind of respected each other a little too much, but they still kept it active. But Petroski definitely got the victory as he was the more busy guy. He was more active throughout the entire fight. But this was a very close fight. This could have ended up in a tie on so many different ways. So I'm actually shocked that they gave a clear win, and not even a split decision. But this one was close. On to the second fight, Ismael BonFim versus Nazim Sadykhov. So this fight right here is a little bit of a sleeper, and I'm actually shocked it was only the second fight of the night. It could have been the third fight, or even, honestly, the co-main event for real. I expected a lot of greatness in this fight, and we definitely got that. BonFim, he started to headhunt most of this fight, and that was interesting to see. Instead of working his way in, throwing a couple of different punches at the head, and then doing what he wants to do, as far as potentially taking Sadykhov down or something like that. But I think all of this is because of his quickness. BonFim is so fast, and maybe he focuses on his quickness a lot more than putting combinations together to get Sadykhov distracted. But Sadykhov's defense, man, that stood out in this fight. He knows how to be offensive at the same time. But when he's in danger, his defensive movement starts to come up. You see that left hand come up to protect his face just in case something comes from the blind side, whether it's a kick or a right hook or something like that. The movement of his head was staying off the center line. He's given a lot of feints, trying to throw off the timing. He caught BonFim with a kick that got through, and it was almost like a question mark kick in a sense, And now he starts headhunting immediately after, landed a nice uppercut, but then ended up grappling at the cage. So the leg kick did a lot more damage to the eye than we actually thought. Even after the first round, they were looking at BonFim and just making sure he can still go. But they had to stop the fight ultimately in the second round. Sadykhov looked like he was just finishing his warm-up. He didn't even look tired or anything, which was actually quite shocking to see. Almost as if he was ready to go 10 rounds maybe, and he said that himself at the, during the interview at the end of the fight. But it's definitely a good win for him. He's becoming more aggressive. Great fight. He did what he had to do, got the W. You can't ask for more. Next up, we have Edmen Shabazyan and Budka. This is going to be the quickest review of all the fights because we had a crazy knockout right here. This one did not take long at all. Just a great overhand right over the guard, and it was just enough to put down Budka. Shabazyan hops on top of him, ground and pound, and Budka was hurt. He was definitely hurt. I mean, he even stumbled to the ground. It was just a great win for Shabazyan. You know, he just came out. He was very thorough with what he wanted to do. He was very intentful in hurting Budka in this one, and he looked like he didn't want to be in there for too long either. But he was intentional. He did what he had to do. Just another great highlight for his career. There's not really much more to say about this fight. It was quick. All right, now next up, we got Kattar versus Youssef Zalal. Now, let's get one thing straight. I have immense respect for anyone who's willing to get inside the cage and actually fight. You know, Kattar is one of those fighters who's one of the most exciting fighters actually to watch in the UFC, really. But ever since he lost to Max Holloway, something was taken away. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's the realization of you shouldn't put yourself in as much danger. You shouldn't take that much damage. Whatever it may be, you know, he definitely has lost that it factor is what I'm trying to say. But that's okay. He's not undefeated. We don't really expect people to be undefeated in the UFC. And that goes for Youssef Zalal as well. He's not undefeated. But Youssef, on the other hand, this will be the biggest fight of his career so far. He has a lot to prove. I love his enthusiasm. I love his excitement for this fight. Just to go out there and do it against a tough opponent. In this fight, I really wasn't shocked as to what happened. Somebody did their homework, and I think it was Youssef's team. You know, they constantly kept Youssef moving the entire time, so his cardio was on point because he was backing up and moving side to side, which is tough to do. Not allowing Calvin to ever set his feet. You know, Calvin honestly looked like he could not hit Youssef without setting his feet. So keeping Youssef moving kept Calvin unbalanced. You know, lots of jabs being thrown by Youssef. Calvin, you know, he was more or less taking pictures as he couldn't figure out what to do to stop Youssef from moving side to side. You know, so he got caught taking pictures way too much. It just seems like there was also a big discrepancy on speed. You know, the jab started making red marks on Calvin's face, and he was wearing it pretty badly. You know, and he was not doing too much to actually give those back to Youssef. You know, it almost seems like Calvin is just not warmed up. It almost seems like Calvin is just not warmed up, or he just couldn't get going, or the speed discrepancy kind of, I don't know, took his nerves away from him or something. Something definitely happened in that fight, you know. It could also be the side-to-side movement that kept him guessing. You know, Calvin started picking it up towards the end of the first round, about 30 seconds left. Youssef is definitely getting more defensive at this point as he started getting touched up a little bit. And he's more or less using his movement and his speed to get away from Calvin. But the speed of that jab from Youssef is a dagger. I mean, that thing, Calvin was catching way too many of those. You know, you can't take too many of those, you know, especially when you're keeping your face dead in the center line. And like I said, he was getting his face marked up for this reason. And it just looked like Calvin just had no answer. You know, he just could not strike back without setting his feet. And the second Calvin settled his feet and started moving, he couldn't touch, or, you know, the second he could not settle his feet and started moving, he just couldn't touch Youssef. You know, Calvin has great cardio, but he's not the fighter to fight on the move. So like I said, somebody definitely did their homework on this fight. And actually, what I thought is exactly what happened. Calvin is getting desperate in the last round, in the third round. He's trying to throw everything that he can, but Youssef all of a sudden changed up the way that he was fighting him. Instead of circling the ring and running away from him the whole time, and, you know, now he's standing in front of him. And now Calvin is looking at him almost in shell shock, like, this guy is now standing in front of me and he's not really moving much. Is he trying to set me up for something? You know, am I gassed from chasing him the whole time, trying to swing? You know, exactly what is going on. It was almost like the perfect reverse psychology. So this was definitely interesting to see as a different tactic for Youssef to use. But Youssef ultimately wins this fight hands down. I mean, he dominated all 3 rounds in every way possible. This was definitely the fight of the jab. The jab definitely won the fight the whole way this time around. All right, now we got to go on over to the main event of the night, Cannonier versus Gregory Rodrigues. And from the get-go, this was an exciting fight, even from when they announced this fight. And I knew someone at some point would go to sleep in the night, or this fight would end in a TKO, and I happened to be right. Rodrigues, though, man, he came out on point. Everything he was striking, or he was throwing at Cannonier, was just landing. He was intentional. He tried to put Jared away in the first round. You know, he dropped Jared twice with some really good punches, but I think where the fight changed is the check kick. One specific right lower leg kick that was going towards Jared Cannonier checked it. And ever since then, Gregory stopped throwing that right leg. So I thought that was the turning point of the fight. Even though Jared was taking a lot of damage in the first round, he never really went away. He stayed confident. He stayed there. And we go on to the second round. Man, Gregory comes out and you can just see he's slow, he's sluggish. Those muscles are filling up with blood. All the energy that he expanded in the very first round is kind of paying dividends for Cannonier now. So it's kind of a weird position to be in, you know. And Jared takes advantage of this, you know, starts pushing the pace. He's doing everything that he can to tire out Gregory. And that's exactly what he ends up doing. His punches are landing. He finds his rhythm. He finds the distance. 2 minutes, 30 seconds left in the second round. We started seeing Gregory kind of get back up a little bit, but it was a little too late. I mean, he had some good moments in the second and third round, but not enough to stop Cannonier's just rampage after that point. Gregory Rodrigues definitely gassed himself out after that first round, which I think was definitely a really bad idea. And Jared took complete advantage of that. Like I said, with the pressure, started dealing the damage back onto Gregory that was dealt to him from the first round. And Rodrigues still remains dangerous, and Jared knew that. That's why he didn't just rush. And Jared is also used to fighting 5 rounds, so he's not just going to gas himself in hopes that he'll still be there later on in the fight. He knows how to pace himself for these type of fights. On the other hand, Rodrigues did not know how to pace himself in this situation, and it definitely showed in the experience here, you know. So Gregory kept moving forward. Jared Cannonier kept moving forward. He wore down Rodrigues, tired him out, put him in danger. And after that, it was all Jared Cannonier from there on. Definitely great fight, but this one ends in a TKO for Jared Cannonier. Rodrigues, you know, when you're fighting with these type of guys, you got to show the respect, man. Everybody has power. Anybody can put you away. And especially when you're fighting someone with 5-round fight experience, you got to be able to pace yourself, man. If you're gassed in the first round, this fight is going to end very quickly. Good thing it lasted as long as it did. But gassing yourself out, if that was the game plan for Jared Cannonier, great job, because you helped him in his game plan. If that wasn't the game plan, you hurt yourself. So, you know, this one definitely backfired for Gregory. Thank you very much for your time today, guys. Definitely like and subscribe, and we will have much more coming for you. Have a good one.